Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Well, Sam, before we begin, I have an announcement.
Uh-oh.
Because it's official. We are now on 6 continents.
What?
We have one listener in South Africa. That was the big one. We hadn't made it to Africa yet, and now we're there.
You folks can't see it, but I am doing a happy dance.
Now, you may ask, oh, well, Matt, which episode did they listen to?
Oh, well, Matt, what episode did they listen to?
I checked the latest one. It wasn't that one.
Okay.
I checked the very first one because our very first episode is like the most listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we mostly talk about Lost, so people are like, well, let me start from the beginning, which is kind of a mistake because we were very new to podcasting those early episodes.
We definitely got better. There was a learning curve.
Oh, big time. But Sam, it was not the first episode. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's our non-Lost stuff. We have the Christmas, we have Valentine's, we have the Dad special. None of those. So why would someone in South Africa decide to just randomly watch or listen to an episode about a random episode of Lost? And that's when I thought, I'm going to check episode. I don't even know what number it is, but we did an episode of season 1 and I titled it, The Heart Wants What It Wants. Of course, I titled it after the Selena Gomez song.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Sure enough, that was it.
Okay.
Now it's really funny because I think that's one of our top listened to episodes.
Yeah, you mentioned that like a couple weeks after Lost. That one.
Yeah. And if you look at all these episode 1, we have listeners from all over the world. The other ones, it's always the same. It's like France, Spain, we got a couple from Germany. You always usually see the same countries listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to The Heart Wants What It Wants, and once again, you got people listening from all over the world. So I'm not drinking any liquor right now, but I want to do a toast to our new listener in South Africa, which, by the way, Sam, as of right now, that's the only episode they've listened to. And also a toast to Selena Gomez for getting us some listeners.
Alrighty. Salute.
Salutations, and please marry me.
Well, I mean, hey, it's official. We are now on 6 out of the 7 continents.
Yeah. Again, we don't get stats for Antarctica, so if you're in Antarctica listening, let us know. Hashtag Lost Legacies.
Yeah. All
right, but speaking of Selena Gomez and One True Love, let's talk about this latest episode. Season 2, episode 5, And Found. Get it? Lost and Found? Anyway.
Yes.
As Michael runs into the jungle searching for Walt, Jin teams up with Mr. Echo to bring him back. Meanwhile, Sun loses her wedding ring, causing her to remember that one time she got friend-zoned. What do you think? I love this episode.
I loved it. Yeah.
I think at this point, I love any episode that centers on Sun and Jin.
Yeah. And it's so... This show has a very unique way of balancing, world building and like lore, like heavy lore about like the island, about people's history, and then of course everybody's like personal journeys. But it feels like anytime it's about Sun and Jin, it's just focused on them and their love story.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep talking about it every single time it's one of their episodes. The fact that the writers loved Youngjun Kim so much that they wrote the entire character of Sun just for her, which means that they wrote the entire character of Jin just for her. Phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. And it feels like their episodes are some of the best and strongest episodes of the series so far. I it's almost like watching a different show, because at a certain point, I think it was when when Sun's looking for her wedding ring, like tearing apart her little tent, and Jack shows up and they start talking, and for a second I was like, oh yeah, this is about a show about people that are stranded on a deserted island. You know, like I'm just so caught up in everything that like Sun is doing that I'm like, I completely forgot what show I was watching.
Yeah. The fact that she was brought in to audition for the role of Kate, I really think it works out, because I love the character of Kate. I'm enjoying her backstory, but I think the writing with Sun's backstory is like far superior to Kate's. I won't say it's better than the backstory, but it just feels like the writing is so much more on point. Like, oh, it's so good. This episode, Sun and Jin, their whole relationship is what really makes Lost great. And specifically an episode like this, where this was really our first one where it was the flashbacks focused on two people. Because we've had the multi-centric episodes where everyone gets one flashback. Technically, I think last season Michael had one where like Walt got one little flashback. But this is the first time where the flashbacks focus on two separate characters, two separate stories, which at the end we see they combine, they mix up the stories, anyway. But this is what really, really makes Lost work, at least to me. And this is kind of the stuff that nobody thinks about. They always think about the ending, or they think about the big overall concepts, or where the hell are the polar bears? What are they doing there? How'd they tattoo a shark? But nobody goes back and talks about Sun and Jin's relationship. It's like, it's there. The stuff is there in the show, but it's almost like everyone is focusing on something, on the stuff that it's kind of, I don't want to say unimportant, but it's not the heart of the story. And if they would focus on that, like see where the writers actually put a lot of the time and energy, I think you would have a different view of Lost, especially all this time later. And that's something I'm really, really enjoying now on this rewatch, like 15 years later, But man, Sun and Jin, one of the best love stories of all time.
Endgame. They're Endgame.
And it's a good look too at what you can accomplish with flashbacks. Because the problems we've had with flashbacks in the past, usually it just felt unnecessary. Well, why does this episode need flashbacks? Yada, yada, yada. Or what are we getting new out of these flashbacks? But if you look at like this episode and then even last episode with Hurley, the flashbacks didn't really move the plot along, but it did move the story. We could kind of start to see where Hurley's coming from with his flashbacks. And in this time, we kind of already knew that Sun and Jin were absolutely in love, and then they fell out of love. So all this really reinforces is like the innocence of the beginning. Not even the beginning of the relationships. We really get to see their lives before they met. And when Sun sees Jin for the first time, it's like she knew it. She knew it. As soon as she sees him, she's like, I'm going to marry this guy. I'm like, oh, man. So again, none of that moves the plot forward, but it just reinforces the story in the heart of those characters. And it's also kind of heartbreaking because we know they're both alive, but Sun doesn't know that Jin's still alive.
Yeah.
So much you can do with flashbacks. I wish the show would do kind of use this as a template of how to approach the other stories. Also, we get to see some more badass Jin this week. He teams up with Mr. Echo.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. Like, once again, this show has a great way of pairing up characters that I didn't know I needed to be paired up, and blowing all my expectations out of the water. And it's I guess it's a testament to the writing and to the actors for making these dynamics work. Because Jin and Mr. Echo, I want a spin-off show.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love the way everyone Jin is kind of like this low force of nature, and it's because he doesn't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
It's really telling. You could see people's relationships, you could see what kind of person they are just by the way they communicate with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's so cool, man, because like his last episode sees what was season one in translation. That's what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that compared to this one and found. And you just see like the progress he's made as a character, and the relationships. I love the scene where okay, so they decided, the tail section survivors say, we got to get all this stuff, so we're going to go find your camp, but it's going to take several days to walk across the whole freaking island. Michael heads off on his own to confront the others because he wants his boy back. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of essentially a lot of the driving point of this episode, because Jin's trying to find Michael. But anyway, I love the scene where Sawyer's talking to Jin and telling him, he's like, we got to look out for ourselves. He's like, I can't go get Michael. He's not going to find Walt. I love it because you could see the camaraderie between the two and you can see the respect. But at the same time, we know these characters,
Mm-hmm.
we know Sawyer. It would have been easy to have Sawyer gone and say, yeah, let's go. But that's not really his character, And I think especially a lot of days now in television storytelling, like we love the trope of the bad boy. But what we love more is the bad boy who's good.
Yeah.
He slowly ends up the team player. It would have been so easy for Sawyer to be like, we're going to go get Mike. But it's like, no, he's out for himself, and he always is. And I love that line he says, it's every man for himself. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene, but despite Sawyer being out for himself, he's still like empathizing with Jin. And he's telling him, like, he's telling him, someone who doesn't speak English, he's trying to tell him, he's like, we can't do it. We got to worry about ourselves. It was really good writing. It was a cool little intimate moment because most of the time lately, we just see Sawyer and Ana Lucia like barking back at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to see him kind of calm down talking with Jin. I also like the little scene he has with Mr. Echo earlier too. You could kind of see how the tail section, the tailies and the rafties are starting to merge.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Yeah, it was good. That's a fascinating new storyline this season.
Mm-hmm.
Curious to see where it goes.
As am I.
Mm-hmm.
As am I. And we caught our first glimpse of the others.
We saw feet.
We saw feet.
Muddy, dirty feet.
Mm-hmm. I love how, I mean, there's so much mystery surrounding this group,
Mm-hmm.
and for all of season one, it was sort of like, are they even real? Like, are they there? Like, only Rousseau is saying that that they exist. She's only heard them. She's never seen them. So obviously everybody's like, I don't think they're real. And then the whole finale is just a red herring. It's like, this is what the others did. And then it turns out that's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
The Rousseau was behind the whole thing. And that, well, I guess this wasn't our first, damn it. This wasn't our first glimpse at the others, because
Well, you got Ethan.
And then the guys that, who took Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is different than those, because the way the tellies are all, the way they're all huddled together and the way they talk about them is like, we don't go that way. You know, it's like we have to go this way. You don't want to go over there. Things like that. When Jin and Mr. Echo find the footprint and they know it's Michael's, and Mr. Echo says, "They don't leave footprints." Like,
Oh man, I
what?
know. I was
What
like,
do you
oh
mean?
god.
It's like, this is crazy. And then they both have to hide, and we see their feet just walking. And yeah, like you could very clearly like hear Jin and Mr. Echo moving through the forest, but when you see the others, you don't hear them move.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was
It was
so
such
scary.
a cool shot too, because you see Jin and Echo looking out into the forest, and the camera shows it like you're not looking, you're just looking at trees. You don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slowly like the camera, it's not like a pan, like I don't know, it had to be like on a crane or something, because the camera moves slowly along. Again, this is where the bigger budget comes. Season 2,
Mm-hmm.
camera moves slowly along, closer and closer onto like these bushes and shrubs. So you like at first I didn't realize, I'm like, are the others hiding? What is it? And you see Jin and Echo in the bushes just looking out. You can see like their eyes. It was great cinematography. It was great camera movement, but also great editing trick, because it cut, from them looking to them hiding. We missed everything in between. And it kind of kept you on guard. Like, I don't know what this camera is going to show me. So I thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
And it adds to the intensity too, not knowing what you're about to see. And then you see these two dudes who are both pretty badass from all we can tell, and they're clumped together hiding. I'm like, oh, dude. And then we see the dirty feet walking by. One, there's lots of them. Two, one of them has a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and the camera even like pans back real quick just to make sure you see it. I'm like, ooh, uh-oh.
And at that moment, I think both of their eyes like even like widen for a second. They're like,
mm-hmm.
What is this? Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
This show, man.
Also, on a side note, I think this episode is probably the most that they've ever said the word lost. Which, I mean, so let's talk about Sun, because this is half her episode 2. Episode starts off, she loses her wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
And she's freaking out about it all day. I kind of knew, like, I kind of remembered from the first time I watched it, but I kind of assumed, like, oh, I know where it's going to be. But I like to see that journey, to see that process of Jack. He didn't really help her, but like he was like calming her down, telling the story about his wedding ring. And it also kind of tells you like who Jack is. Like he just had a replica made. He's like, I can't find it. Oh well.
Yeah.
But I love Hurley. Hurley thinks Vincent ate it, so they're waiting for Hurley to poop it out.
They're waiting for Vincent to poop it out, not Hurley to poop it.
Yes. I love it so, because like there's all these different things, all these different little scenes, and you see different sides of these characters, but also different sides of Sun as well.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see her and Hurley, which we don't get a lot of that team up, so that was a cool little scene between them. And then of course, when Sun does lose it and destroys her garden, who shows up? Guidance counselor Locke.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect timing, man. I even wrote, I'm like, dude, Locke is so good with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so cordial too. I even like the way, he gives her, his handkerchief to clean up her snot. But at the same time, he's about to sit and he's like, is it okay if I sit? She's like, yes. I like that he asked for permission to sit, because he knows whatever she's going through, it's a moment for her. So he wants to make sure it's cool. But I like that. Like, it just adds to his charm. And I don't know. We also know Locke's he manipulates as well. Mm-hmm. So I think there's also a danger to that. But I really like that. I really like that scene between those two. Because again, that's another combo we don't see that much. We don't see Sun with Locke. And what does he tell her? Oh, he tells her that he was always angry. And she asked him, well, how'd you stop? And he's like, well, the same, I forgot what the line is. The same way anything lost gets found, I stopped looking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe that's a metaphor for the show, Sam. For their plight. We got to stop trying to be found. Just live.
Yeah, and having these two meet up and talk and bond, you know, like for all the antagonism that we've seen Locke, you know, present just within these first couple episodes of this season, you forget that some of his best moments of season 1 were when he was just sitting with people, talking with people, helping with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he builds Claire, you know, a cradle for her baby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he helps Charlie kick his heroin addiction. You know, when Jack is suffering, you know, seeing his father, the ghost of his father, Locke tells him he has to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he'll come out on the other side. And so yeah, it's such a great thing to see that, like, yeah, like this guy, like, as maybe fanatical as he is, at his base, maybe at his core, he cares about people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he's a good person. From what we've
yeah.
seen, he's a good person.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think he compounds everything that, like, Jack was saying. You know, it's like it's going to turn up in the most unlikeliest place. Like, you're never going to guess where it is. And Locke kind of like takes the BS out of it and says that, like, just stop looking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're meant to have it, it's going to come back. You know,
Mm-hmm.
again, even within these two separate scenes, we're getting that dichotomy of the man of science and the man of faith, you know, there. And yeah, and just Sun herself, I think, sees that in that moment, you know, because she's heard it before. She didn't get anywhere with Hurley, and now at this moment, like, this is where her lowest point is, and that's when she, you know, realizes that, like, yeah, it's fine, it's a thing. If it turns up, it turns up.
Mm-hmm. See, I would have very much been the guy who's like smoking a cigar for some reason.
Oh my God.
You know what they say, son? It's always the last place you look. I've always hated that saying, although it does make sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's the only scene Locke was in this episode, and it was good. I love seeing it when he shows up. He's like, oh, you know, this is going to be good. I think that's also kind of what, because we've already said, like, in a lot of ways, he is an antagonist. His goals run opposite to most of his fellow survivors on this island.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, at the end of the day, he is a good guy. And even though he's manipulating people, willing to sacrifice people, probably, he does have the best intentions. That's another saying. What? The path to hell is usually paved in good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This episode's all about sayings. So. And it all started when we started talking about the heart wants what it wants. So once again, thank you, Selena Gomez.
Oh my god! Don't give Selena Gomez credit for another episode, please.
I'm gonna find more. If I could, I would name every episode after a Selena Gomez song.
Potentially you could.
Oh, side note, just in case you're wondering, someone leaked the demo for the original theme song to Wizards of Waverly Place. And no shit, dude, like, it's kind of banging. I'm like, I wish they used it. I was like, oh wow. I was like, this is kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the goal, Sam. We're gonna get Selena Gomez on this show to talk about Lost.
Well, you heard it here, folks. The original Wizards of Waverly Place theme was banging.
You know, man, I'm trying to live in, you know, the light and positivity, and I'm just trying to manifest my dreams. So Selena Gomez talking about Lost. on our podcast. Make it happen, internet.
Speaking of living in the light and manifesting your dreams, let's talk about all the flashbacks, because for me, those were some of the best parts of the entire episode.
Do you want to? Because like I feel like that's going to be the rest of our episode. So before we do that, I just want to mention one thing: the end of Sun's story.
Okay.
She ends up finding the ring, of course, where we guessed it, where she buried the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But she does it with Kate. You know, she has a nice little scene with Kate. She's talking about Kate. She admits that they found the bottle. Yada yada yada. It's good. It was great writing. I loved it. The final scene when they do find the ring, it's great. But what stood out to me is Kate.
Mm-hmm.
She's going through the letters, and when Sun stops her, Kate admits that she never got to say goodbye to Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
We always knew there's a little something between those two. A lot of fighting, you know, and flirtations. But like this was kind of the moment, and then we saw it in the finale where you can tell she regrets and she's really missing that opportunity to say bye to him.
Mm-hmm.
But in this scene, it was like, wow, like she's really broken up about this. She didn't get to say bye to him. I'm like,
yeah. But I'm also over here. I'm like, well, that's on you, Kate.
That's on you, Kate, especially because there's a little bit of angry flirtations between Sawyer and Ana Lucia in this one as well.
Of course there are.
Okay, so we have Jack, Kate, Sawyer, and now we're throwing Ana Lucia into the mix, who she already flirted with Jack before they got on the plane. So this is what is this?
It's a pentagon.
Before people? Quattrogon.
A quattrogon. No, it's just a square then. It's a love square.
This is a love square.
A rumba. The diamond. Rhombus. Yes. That's what I was trying to say. Rhombus.
There you go.
It's a love rhombus.
A love rhombus. Okay.
That's the title of the episode. A love rhombus.
So we'll see where this goes. Yeah, it definitely looks like Sawyer seems to be getting worse. Like he's slowing down. Yeah. But his quips are getting faster. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what happens with him or Ana Lucia. But that's kind of all the other fluff that was really cool that kind of built everything out. I feel like the main heart of this episode, though, was like what you're going to bring up, the flashbacks. Who do you want to talk about first, Jin or Sun?
Let's talk about Sun.
Okay.
Let's talk about Sun. She starts off where I feel like we've all been before, being chastised by our mothers. Like, are you going to wear that on your date? You need to marry.
Yeah.
And, it's like your father says that it's time for you to marry. It's like, well, yeah, we've all been there.
There are just some things that transcend borders in all cultures, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Our moms just want to see us happy, okay?
No matter what, damn it.
No matter what, you have no say in that.
You're going to be happy even if you don't like it.
Love you, Mom.
Yeah. That was so essentially she's being set up by a matchmaker. I do like what as cruel as it is, I like what they were talking about earlier, because it kind of tells you all you need to know about Sun, where she says, her mom says, if you had found a husband in college, you wouldn't be in this situation. And Sun says, well, I went to college for a degree. And her mom freaking tells her, well, now you're silver and you need to find a husband before you turn to bronze.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man.
Yeah, that's
the parents in the show. Like what? Because it's not good television if you have a good relationship with your parents, I guess. Who has a good parent so far? Well, I mean, good is the wrong word, but I mean, because even I guess you could say Hurley's mom is all right, but even she chastises him a lot.
Yeah.
Walt's mom, maybe,
Yeah,
but that's why she
maybe.
died, because she was a good parent.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was like a
exactly.
Disney movie.
um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was like one person we were like, finally, a good parent, on the in this show. But no, I feel like, look, man, that's just all that's what Lost is. I feel like at like one of like its major themes is, you know, reckoning with family, reckoning
Yeah.
with, for the most part, it's been fathers,
Hmm.
absentee fathers or terrible fathers, but you were slowly, kind of seeing that like there are also like some strenuous relationships with moms. Like Kate's mom freaking like almost hit the panic button on her when she visited her at the
Yeah.
hospital as she's dying.
Yeah.
Like get away from me, like that's like it's bad.
I'll say this, because we haven't seen much of him, but Jin's father.
Oh,
You see, he seemed like a really good person, but that was more on Jin. Like he was ashamed to have come from a poor family, which we'll talk about that because that plays into effect big time in this episode.
mm-hmm.
So from what we can tell, he was a good person, and like just the way he accepted his son, and like there wasn't even any like Jin asked for forgiveness, and it wasn't even needed. Like his dad didn't
Mm-hmm.
hold anything against him. He just wanted to see his boy again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that scene still like just tugs at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
So far, Jin's dad is probably the only solid parent we've seen. But this begs the question, Sam: if this whole show is about reckoning in parents' relationships, how is Claire gonna mess up that baby? you know, there's
You're
no good
absolutely
parents on this
right.
show, I guess. So Claire's gonna do something.
You're
Um,
absolutely right.
oh man, yeah. All right. So what happens next for Sun?
So she she meets up with a pretty nice
Yeah,
dude.
that
He's
was surprising. I really like this guy.
he's the son of the guy who owns the hotel that they end up
That
going
Jin
to.
is working on. We see
That
him in the
Jin is
background.
we're gonna get to that, yeah.
Yeah.
And they meet and they have a good moment together,
Hmm.
and we see that like they connect, on a certain level. He asks her what she studied in college. She says art history, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know anything about art."
It was a nice little fake out too. I was like, oh, he doesn't know anything about art.
Uh huh.
And
They're
then
like,
she asked,
"Well,
what did you study? He's like, what? Like
I
Russian
think,
literature.
yeah,
Like,
Russian
oh,
literature," and she's like, "Oh,
okay.
okay, yeah."
I thought he was gonna be like a dude bro or something, but like, oh, okay, no. This guy's
Yeah,
actually legit. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and it's like it's a nice moment. They bond, and like we see, because obviously like Sun hasn't been happy about this whole arrangement, and she seems happy.
Yeah.
She's like, she relaxes her shoulders, she smiles very genuinely, and you're like, okay, I think this can work. And
Hmm.
then uh when we see them again, and they're having lunch, and it's like they're obviously connecting, it's so great. And then what happens, Matthew? Dude drops the ball that he met a woman in America, and he's gonna propose to her, and he's gonna live in America. And Sun's like,
Hold up.
that's great.
Uh-huh.
I'm so
But
happy
even right
for
before that,
you.
like he's asking her, like, I would continue to like to see you, you know.
Mhm.
I no
Yeah.
matchmakers, no parents. I'm like, oh, this is going great. Apparently he just meant as friends.
Hmm. Matthew,
He didn't get the clue, man.
I'm
Like
gonna share some deep seated wisdom that it's taken me about almost 30 years to figure out. Men are idiots.
yep.
Men are
Yep.
clueless idiots.
If if you're listening to this podcast, the only wisdom I can impart on you,
Uh
which was only recently imparted on me, like in the last couple of years,
oh. Hmm.
unless it's specifically stated that you and whoever your potential partner is, whoever this person is, you're hanging with, if it's not specifically stated that this is only for friends, there's a good chance it's a date.
Yeah.
I remember our friend Laura told both of us, because we said something like, "Oh yeah, we just went out for drinks or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "So it's a date?" I was like, "No, it's just drinks." Oh my god! It kind of dawned on me, And then that's when she even said, "She's like, guys, yes, it's a date." So that's the mentality. Unless it's specifically said, this is just friends only.
Mm-hmm.
Just assume it's a date because it is.
Yeah, I happened to learn that when I met up with Kat. It was the first time outside of work. We went to go get drinks. We had drinks. We had a great time. We walked around a little bit. We got some food, and it was about halfway through eating food that I realized, holy crap, this is a date. Because like for up until then, I was carefree. We were talking, we were vibing. It was so great. It was fun. I'm like, I really like this woman. She's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having so much fun. And what I didn't realize was that I bought her drinks,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently, as a friend thing, I'm assuming that that's a no because I thought I was just being a good person. I'm just like, oh yeah, don't worry, your drinks are on me. And I went and got drinks,
Mm-hmm.
And then I did it again. And then for her, that's when it was clued in, like, okay, this is a date. And that was like an hour into us hanging out. And I was like, uh-oh. So yeah, once again, men are clueless.
Yes. I will say this. I'm trying to see how I can set up this story. So, well, okay, regardless, you're married now. So it worked out.
Yeah. It
It's
ended
a
up
funny
working out
story
anyway. Yeah.
to look back on and say, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've had a ton of friends, women friends. Okay, this is also part of it too for me. I think because when I went back to school, I was to college, I was a lot of my fellow students were younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a couple of years, you know what I mean? So I was like mid-20s when I went back, and a lot of them were like early 20s, if not like 18 or 19. So a lot of my social, what do you call it? Socialness. Like I was never really in the mindset of dating. So I was hanging out with a lot of women or girls who like I knew this wasn't date. I never had that intention either because there was that age difference. So I think that was like a mindset I never really got out of for a while because I just yeah sure we're just hanging out, we're just getting drinks. Which is possible. I think that's fine, but for me the problem was like I never turned it off. So I the older I got, I found myself in situations like, oh, this is a date. But when I was living in Los Angeles, I would always take people to do the same thing because this wasn't a date. Okay.
Okay.
We would go downtown, Hollywood Boulevard, go to In-N-Out. It's a staple of the Los Angeles experience. You eat it In-N-Out.
Right.
You walk around Hollywood Boulevard. I would take them to the candy store. It was called Sweet. It's no longer there. I think you went with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had the giant like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, like outside just his head.
Yeah.
They had like the piano keyboard stairs on the way up. They had a Willy Wonka chocolate like little section. They had a mural of the rapper Eminem made out of M&Ms. And you could watch them like make candy. It was the coolest stores, the coolest candy shop I've ever been in. I loved it. It's closed now. But I would take people there, mostly women. And then if we felt like walking, we would walk to Amoeba Records. That was the thing. That's what I would do on my own too if I just wanted the free time. Or if I had free time, I would just go do that, a day date. well, then I would do that, right? And then one day I took my buddy Mike. Okay, he's a surfer dude. I met at work. We got in and out, and I was like, "Hey, man, you want to walk to the candy store and just like walk around?" He's like, "Yeah, cool." And he kind of said it joking. He's like, "Is this a date?" I was like, "No, man." I was like, "I do this with everyone." And I started thinking, like, "Oh, have I been taking all these women on dates?"
On the same date.
And then I just took them home afterwards without a word. Yep.
No.
Yep.
Oh.
In and out. Candy store, record shop,
and then home.
Getting hassled by the people in costume on Hollywood Boulevard. Yep. Same thing, man.
Another Hollywood staple, yeah.
They have the what's the theater there that they have the Oscars?
The Chinese theater?
No, that it's like next door. I forgot, but they have like the staircase, and on the pillars they have like engraved like all the best picture winners.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Super cool. That's originally in a non-COVID world. That's like the entrance to the Oscars. It's a shopping center, so everyone can just walk in. You know, It's awesome. Yeah, it was a cool experience. I would do that just for myself because I like doing it, and then so like I wanted to share it. So if I met Sun through a matchmaking service, I probably would have done the same with her. Sorry.
Wow. You know, I would hope that if you meet somebody through a matchmaking service, you would know.
Well, that's true.
This is a date.
That guy, all of this just comes around to the point of the story being that guy should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
What was he thinking? Like, I never got the sense that he was leading her on intentionally, just stupidly.
Yeah.
Like he didn't realize what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because he seemed like a really nice guy. He just was an idiot.
Yeah.
You know who I bet would like In and Out and Candy Store and Amoeba Records?
Who?
Selena Gomez.
Oh my God. So, anyway, let's talk about Jin.
Yes. You read my mind.
Jin starts out getting ready for a job interview, and his roommate is reading from his mother's like fortune telling book.
I guess, yeah. He just kind of jokingly calls it like a destiny book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And says, as he's like trying to read like Jin's future really quick before he walks out the door, tells Jin that he's going to find love. This year, Jin is going to find love. And Jin's like, whatever. What's it going to look like? And he's like, hang on. Orange. Jin's like, that's impossible. Whatever. Go, they talk really quick. They go out. He goes on his interview, meets the head of the hotel, who is, I think it's fair to say, an asshole, because he asks Jin where he's from, and he's like what village, and Jin says, and he's like, oh, you're a fisherman. Yeah. Thought I could smell the fish on you. I'm like, oh, you, oh, and then basically, gives him the uniform, hires him on the spot, and then tells Jin the big thing he tells Jin is, you don't open this door for people who look like you.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh man.
And I'm like, man, that is,
yeah,
man. One, it just pisses me off, like shitty employers like that, just like that's the mindset, of all these things. But then, it's also like Jin, like has no other option, he's looking for work. He needs work, and this is the best he can do. Like,
it's kind of telling too, because he tells his friend how this is a very important job.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he gets the job, we find out, oh, he's a bellboy, which the way Jin was playing it, not that that's a bad job, but the way Jin was playing it, that's not what we were expecting.
Yeah.
That kind of just shows like how, I guess, desperate he is, or just how in need he is for a job. And his whole thing is, he was saying, you have to have goals. You have to work the hardest, get promoted. So he's literally the bottom of the barrel trying to work his way up.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a hardcore work culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the interview, they said you were a busboy who got promoted to waiter, and they never promote within, except for Jin. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like all these little lines and all these little details that are there just to show you just how ruthless this work environment, not just at this hotel, but I feel like just maybe the whole culture is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It just seems very cutthroat. And then
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the boss doesn't say people who look like you can't let them in. He says people like you,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
which even hurts a little more because it's like there's not anything wrong with the way I look. It's just me in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's even like, it feels even more racist.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, dude. Sure, give me
Yeah.
a job. Yeah, it seems brutal. And by looking at this, you could kind of see how Jin ends up where he eventually ends up, as like an enforcer. It's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, this is rough.
Yeah.
Oh. But Jin is a good man at heart, and that's why he gets fired. Or he doesn't get fired, he quits.
He
Because
quits.
he lets the dad and his son in who are clearly poor. They look poor.
Mm-hmm.
And the boss gets mad at him and he quits
Mm-hmm.
because
He
he
has
has
integrity.
morals, integrity. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Morals, integrity. Jin at his heart is a good man,
Mhm.
and what happens to good men, Matthew?
They fall in love.
They fall in love.
Hmm.
They find their true loves. And that's what happens with Jin and Sun.
Hmm.
And we've been skipping over a fact, but I mentioned it because that's how Jin's flashback starts. He will find love this year, and love will be orange.
Hmm.
Matthew, what color is the drink that Sun is having on her first date?
Oh, orange. I didn't
Orange.
even think of that.
Exactly. Matthew, what's the color of the flower that Jin has on his lapel that
Orange.
Sun's date ends up asking him for because he has
Hmm.
a date?
Orange.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. And Matthew, what is the color of the dress of the woman who passes by Jin that Jin looks enamored with? And then when he turns around, he bumps into Sun.
Orange.
Exactly.
Oh,
Orange.
man.
It's small, it's subtle. Is it cheesy? Sure. But you know what? Sometimes love is cheesy.
You see, aren't you glad we have this podcast?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they fall in love,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is
And it's
history.
instantaneous. They
Yeah.
bump into each other. He helps her get her stuff. She's, like, oh, thank you, and they stand up and they look at each other. And then it's just like that brief moment where it's like you look up and you see a person and you're like, oh, okay. And then you stare a little bit longer and you're like, oh, okay.
Lady in red.
Lady at
No, no,
home.
is that the song you hear when at Love at First Sight?
I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see where their flashbacks go from here.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen them married from both perspectives. We've seen the courtship process, as they're about to get married. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen it was almost the end of the marriage where they're splitting up and Sun's trying to leave. And now we've seen how they meet. So I don't really know at what point we're going to come back
Mm-hmm.
to Sun and Jin in a flashback. Maybe the dating phase? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering what's next.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that's kind of how I feel about a lot of different people. And I think that might just be like that's just one of the things I feel like as the show goes on, like maybe that holds back some of the episodes or some of the character development because
Mhm.
we have to go to a point further back in the past just to illustrate something that's happening in the present. And it's like, how relevant is it then? And
Mhm.
like it feels like we keep going further and further back in Jack's history.
Mhm.
We keep kind of doing that within Michael's history, or at least we're exploring some of like the gaps in between what we know so far. But yeah, it's like how far back are we going to have to go for some of these people? How far back do we have to go for Kate before we really see the whole picture that is Kate?
But you see, what's interesting is that not all the flashbacks are going back further.
Well, exactly. That's what I mean, because even Charlie's stuff, it's like that's still within the time frame of his first flashback and his second one. Like, yeah, we can just insert that wherever. It's like So I don't know. I guess that's just something that I'm curious to see how they handle and how that comes up.
Because like Sun and Jin, I think each flashback has gone further back.
Yeah.
Even though like a couple of them like spanned a length of time. Hurley's was interesting because his second flashback was like in the middle of the first. Because the first one apparently went this whole span of time, but the second one was just like essentially this one day in the middle. So I think I'm kind of excited to see how they play around with that as well. But yeah, I'm kind of at the point where it's like, and we've said it before, like we do think in some cases the flashbacks hold the show back. It's almost like a crutch, it's like, you didn't. This story, Charlie is the biggest example. Like this flashback didn't really do anything for the episode or the character. So he's kind of the main one. I'm kind of interested in waiting to see his flashbacks this season. Because I think he got 2 last season, 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many he gets this time. But that's going to be interesting to see. Because I just give him something good, But it's very fascinating because now we're 5 episodes in. There's still a lot that we haven't really seen from certain people. Like Saeed's there, Claire's there. They're still kind of on the outskirts. They haven't really been given anything to do this season. It's going to be fascinating to see which characters kind of come and go as far as like their stories and like who becomes more central and who doesn't. Because like Saeed's a big character on the show, and like we haven't gotten anything from him this season. He's kind of just there in a very supporting cast role.
Yeah.
So we'll see, and we'll see what happens with these new survivors from the Tell section. I think it would be a damn shame if we don't get their flashbacks. So now we're talking about. So far it's a handful. It's like 4 or 5 new characters who actually have speaking lines so far.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that. Okay, so dude, let's do what do we do first? MVPs. I think this one's kind of easy.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's gotta be Sun and Jin.
Yeah, I agree. Although I will say the actor who plays Mr. Echo, I don't have his name on me right now, and it's a doozy. I know I would butcher his name, unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll bring him up as an MVP at some point. So I just wanted to throw a shout out to him. But yeah, MVPs are definitely Yeonjun Kim and Daniel Day Kim. Just
phenomenal.
Badass.
Yeah.
Rock stars.
Incredible.
As far as the acting goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us more. Give us the spinoff. Give us the movie with Sun and Jin.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. What do we got? We got predictions. Okay, there's some interesting things happen that we didn't talk about in this episode. We mentioned like the others, how they're teasing them slowly revealing more and more. We know something very bad has happened to the Tell section survivors. So with all this in mind, what do you think? What's going to happen? Next episode, this season, and the whole show, what are your predictions?
I think in a couple episodes, we're going to find out that the others ate some of the Tell section.
Okay.
And I'm gonna predict that we're gonna get some sort of flashback for at least Ana Lucia and Mr. Echo. I don't know if Libby's gonna get one. I don't know if Bernard. It would feel weird if Bernard gets one before Rose. That would suck.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see. And Jin did find a body this episode.
Oh yeah, Goodwin.
Good one. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh God, what does this mean? And this was bad. Like that guy was like impaled on like a spike, like a wooden stake.
Yeah,
I'm like, uh-oh.
yeah. I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear of the tragic fate of Goodwin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is a great episode. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. 5 stars. Keep them coming.
Yeah, solid. Next episode is season 2, episode 6, Abandoned. As Sawyer's wound continues to worsen, the tail section survivors pick up the pace and risk cutting through the other's territory.
Uh-oh.
Meanwhile, Shannon continues to see things that should not be there.
Oh, snap.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice because that was like, what, episode 1 this season? Where she sees like Walt talking backwards out there?
Yeah. I think that was the season opener.
And other than that, we haven't seen Shannon this whole time. Like she's been in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was randomly with Claire when Claire gave the message in a bottle to Sun.
So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see more of Shannon. So especially because I think this episode they mentioned that the raft has been gone for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So even though for us it's been a while watching these episodes, season 1 ended 4 days ago. Boone died right before that. So I want to say it's maybe a week after he dies. It's still very recent.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see Shannon again. And I'm assuming Saeed because they're still pretty close as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
All right. Well, till next time, guys, like, rate, subscribe, share, review. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's another one I'm missing. But anyway, hit us up. #Lost Legacies. I'm on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez, but I'm mostly on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Badass. Well, until next time, guys,
Get lost.